everybody, welcome to Monday Live here at the Kingdom. Welcome Adam.
Hi Zan Johnson, how are you today?
Good, thank you Adam Steinhardt, how are you today?
Very good. You always forget my name when you
I don't forget your name, I know who you are.
Exactly, what about the millions?
Yeah, true, good point. Sorry, Adam Steinhardt, Managing Director of the Kingdom, joining us today for Live. And we are talking about marketing content, which is very different from content marketing.
Correct.
I cannot wait for this description.
Because you have no preparation on the thing I'm about to talk about.
Oh, as opposed to any other day.
Okay, so we are talking about content marketing versus marketing content.
Right.
So perhaps let's define what content marketing kind of is, right? Mm-hmm. And content marketing is, well, it's actually been around forever and a day.
Sure.
People don't realise it's actually been in our lives. And simplistically, it's just having content on your website that helps people understand what you sell. That's really all there is to it. But the difference, of course, in today's day and age is that there are so many different communication methods which you can use to create the content. In the old days, it was like, okay, yellow pages. That was content marketing. You just had one page in yellow pages and it was there for a year. Okay. So you had to make it pretty important. Okay.
Stagnant content marketing.
Yeah, very, very limited amount, you could say. Frozen for a year. So you had to be good. You want to spell it out. Yeah. You want to get that phone number.
Proof that ad right.
Correct. It's like the So Zan just had to take a call. So
Sorry.
We're back. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So we're talking about the forms of content have changed. So previously, okay, if you wanted to do radio, to do content, you kind of had to be invited on a talkback radio session. Okay.
HubSpot.
Yeah, and you could do your ad, but that's really 30-second screen because you want to get call to action ROI straight away. But content marketing these days is so much easier because you're able to create blogs, website pages, this sort of video. You can create content out of anything, podcasts. So content marketing is that process of actually creating content that's interesting to the customers, generally speaking.
Okay.
So we're talking now about marketing. Ask me, Zan, what about marketing content?
Okay, I'm following the script here, everybody. So Adam, what about marketing content?
Good question. Okay, so what about marketing content? So what we're talking about here is actually taking your content and marketing it. So not just making content for the sake of making content, but making content that's actually legitimately really interesting and making sure that content is really special to the user.
Okay. So it's a bit like the whole content is king theory where if you've got really, really strong content, the way you distribute it is very important.
Absolutely. Well, importantly, you want to make sure the content's really interesting and really helpful, okay? Because there's a lot of content out there. Of course, with the explosion of channels, which there's squillions of channels, a great ability to create content, also comes this great saturation, this magnificent wave of content coming at you.
Yeah.
So it stands to reason that if you actually want to be heard, you need to be attractive. Okay. You need to be actually valuable and interesting. So that means you've really got to say to yourself, right, is this really boring, straightforward article I'm writing about financial planning? Is that going to be legitimately read?
Okay. And if the answer's no, then what do?
You start again.
Oh, bold!
So the number one test is, would you read your own stuff? Okay, so a lot of people write stuff for their website.
Yep.
A lot of people create their website stuff once and then let the web designer go ahead and put it up there and that's it for a couple of years.
Yep.
Is your website boring? Is your content boring? Is the blog that you've just written legitimately worthwhile reading? And often you'll find that, you know what, that's just schlock. I wouldn't read that. I wouldn't stop doing what I'm doing, engaging in other interesting content to say, yeah, let's just stop this really boring piece of information I've written for someone. It doesn't happen.
No. So how do you go about making sure that you're writing something that is going to be interesting? I mean, I've got the answer in my head, but for a lot of the viewers, that's really intimidating and overwhelming.
Yeah, so where do you start? That's a really interesting question. I like it a lot. In that, where do you start when you're creating the content? Well, first thing is that if you're going to talk about you the whole time and what you sell, that's legitimately not that interesting.
You don't care?
No, I don't care.
No interest?
None whatsoever. Okay, so what you want to be saying is instead of talking about what you sell, talk about how what you sell helps the customer, okay? Talk about how you're going to solve the pain points of the customer. Talk about stuff that's interesting to them, but dress it up in a way which is legitimately interesting.
Okay, so let's take your example of writing about financial planning and interest rates.
Yeah.
Give us an example of how I can attractively put that content into a blog.
Glad you asked. Cracking answer, okay? So the challenge, of course, we see it a lot. The financial websites always talk about the interest rate situation on the first Tuesday of the month, which is when the Reserve Bank gets together in Australia and decides what's happening with interest rates. But of course, the media think that's newsworthy as well, so everybody knows in about a half an hour what's happening the interest rates. When the news comes out, we know. So the thing is, if you're going to write financially, let's look at the all-time top 10 finance movies. So Wall Street, for example, absolutely cracking. You've got the more recent, you've got
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street, brilliant. So if you're going to talk about the top 10 all-time financial movies, it's not hard to think of what they are. There's two straight away.
Yeah.
We've got the one recently about the help me out here, the global financial crisis, which is just I can't think short trading or something. Yeah.
This is live, people. This is live.
Yeah, you've got the Bearings Bank stuff as well. So heaps, lots.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So.
But how does that relate to my core message of interest rates?
Well, what about we analyse the messages you can learn from the top 10 financial movies.
Yep.
And as a result, you can then start talking at the bottom about your financial services. Okay. And look, to be honest with you, who gives a shit about interest rates? Really? Because somebody else is broadcasting that information. Well, somebody else is doing it, right?
Yeah, true.
And so you're not an expert on the world if you're saying this is the latest interest rates, because everyone else is doing that. It's not unique knowledge. But taking a look at those 10 movies, that's really interesting.
Kind of interesting.
The Big Short is named
that. Excellent.
Yeah, delayed my thinking for a long time.
Get there. Excellent. Good one. Cool. All right. So you talked about channels, and I think that's a confusing area for people too, because there are so many channels. Channels, for those who don't know, are different platforms, so different social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Zing, Snapchat.
Zings! X-I-N out of Germany, love it.
Yeah.
Good one.
There are literally 10s, 20s, 30s. So how do I choose which is the best spot for me in my business?
This is the hub and spoke process of publishing, and coming soon, big announcement on hub and spoke coming up pretty soon. But what we're talking about here is create one piece of idea, one piece of creative, and then spoke it out to different ways of actually communicating that information. And each particular method has its own different ways. So for example, you might kick off with typically a blog. It's not a bad way to start, but you can also start off with a podcast. Okay. And this, for example, this live video, we actually go ahead, and many of the viewers don't know because we haven't published them yet, is that we actually go ahead and transcribe this conversation for what it's worth. And then from there we actually go ahead and blog it. And from the blog we'll create tweets. Yep. And from the blog we'll also create posts. Yep. And we may even create an ebook if the content's interesting enough. We may even go write the top 10 financial movies.
We might. We've got 3.
We might do that. And so from there you actually create that central piece and spin it out into different channels. And so you may have, for example, pictures that relate to Pinterest. So the blog graphics can go to Pinterest and Insta, and then you may have another Facebook, or you might have a Snapchat video or Instagram video that introduces the topic. Yep. So once you've got that one idea, then you're able to spin it out into many different places, which makes it even more important that that actual idea is strong and polished, and you spent some time marketing the idea. Okay, so let's hypothetically say I post something onto Facebook. I get a great response. People come through to my website. I have HubSpot so I can see the traffic. I should never post that again, right? Right? I love that pregnant pause. Of course not. You should definitely post it again. Yeah, and that's the thing is, I just had a meeting actually, right? And, the Kingdom posts about 150 social media messages a day, which seems like a lot, and it's because it works. And we know it works because we have HubSpot checking it in the background. But one of the questions that the gentleman said to me is like, I never see you guys posting. It's like, well, that's because a lot of the time people are at work or in meetings. Yeah. Like we are seeing no social media right now, or we're actually presenting. And so as a result, the Twitter timeline moves quickly and the Facebook newsfeed moves quickly. These social channels actually go very quickly. They do. And so if you've got a piece of content that worked really well, then you should absolutely be repurposing that. So pick out the bits that were good. Once again, we market the content. Yeah. Market the content. So find the stuff in that blog that was interesting. Take the examples of the stuff that was interesting in the post and rework it. Reuse it. Use it in your emails. Use it as subject matter for a quick Insta feed or whatever it might be. So you can do all kinds of stuff with it. Very good. Excellent. Well, that content marketing content segment was very enlightening. I'm sure that everybody has clarified that headline now. Market your content, that's the key thing. So, don't just keep it on your website, you've got to push it out. Now this is 11th or 12th edition of the Kingdom Live. Thanks for watching. Now we have the back issues, which I'm sure you're going to be thrilled to see. The back issues are on the, don't roll your eyes,
I didn't roll my eyes.
thekingdom.com.au/podcast. So we've got, in fact, we've got a new website. We actually not the that'll get you there through a 301 redirect. We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
But check out the website, thekingdom.com.au. Plenty of stuff to see there. And tomorrow, if you've got a question, we'll totally talk about it for 10-15 minutes. So if you have a question or idea or something you're worried about or interested in, by all means, shoot that question through, post it on the Facebook feed, and we'll go ahead and answer that. Almost certainly, because we get about 1 to 2 viewers a day, let alone questions, but you've got to go past 1 to get to 50 to 100.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.
See ya.